Hi, I just want to tell you up top that this video is going to contain discussions of surgery, serious injury, medicine, and I am going to be showing x-rays. I will give you verbal warning when that happens. My intention is that this video may help someone dealing with a similar injury. It might also just be interesting to you. I don't know your life. It was July 31st and I had just prepared myself an exquisite bowl of Chef Boyardee. I hadn't eaten that day, so I was quite hungry at this point. It's about 1 in the afternoon, I think. I wanted to climb into bed to eat my feast. My bed happens to be 3 feet off the ground. It's really tall. So in order to not spill this messy pasta all over my bed sheets, comforter? Maybe a normal term. All over my comforter, I decided to stand on the stool beside my bed. It was not, I can't this is very dumb rationale. It's just what I did. I had other options. And yet I went for the one that broke my arm. Long story short, I fell and broke my arm. However, the best part of the story is that I didn't spill a fucking drop. I didn't spill it. That's what really matters to me. I didn't notice this at the time because I was on the floor crying as my mother ran upstairs. So that was a later Rachel realization. Anyway, my mom comes upstairs, we go back downstairs. She grabs me a bag of frozen corn, which is just fun and quirky, and we drove to the hospital. While I'm going to gloss over this, the hospital ride was horrible, was the worst. Every single bump is hell because I don't know how hold bones together. Hold your bones. Yeah, and it was about 15 minutes of agony. It's a lot of fun. I recommend it. 5 stars on Yelp. By the way, this is a bit of an aside, but the entire car ride I just kept lamenting I had never broken a bone and I have now, and this is annoying. I don't get to be like, I've never broken a bone, because I am so graceful. After we took a wrong turn, which was so frustrating, we eventually ended up in the hospital. I got taken in pretty quickly. I actually was trying to get my mother to contact this person to cancel an appointment I had made. This is not relevant, but I'm just really proud that I remember that. My mother couldn't do it, of course, because she's old and doesn't know how to work a phone. I got taken in as I was waiting in my hospital bed. So I got taken in. I was sitting in a hospital bed waiting for the nurse to give me any pain medication, but she was delaying quite a lot. I don't mean to begrudge the nurse. I think she just didn't understand the amount of pain I was in, and that every second was kind of constant agony. Although it wasn't as bad as the car ride because I wasn't moving, so it was pretty bad though. She eventually came in and gave me fentanyl. The reason why she was delaying, for reference, is because I have low blood pressure all the time. It's probably pretty weird to have low blood pressure when you just had a serious injury, but I did, and she was nervous about giving me morphine. I'm sure if you know stuff about drugs that makes sense, but I don't know that much. I just remember the names of the things because I had heard of them. While fentanyl is apparently more effective than morphine, it doesn't last as long. So by the time I was sent for my first x-ray, it had worn off and I was sobbing in pain. I imagine that I made the tactician feel quite terrible as I just cried and tried to turn my hand in any direction possible. Also, as an aside, did you know that when they give you saline in an IV, you can kind of taste it? That's just a fun fact. It's weird. Now, I'm going to show you the x-rays in a moment, and I just want to give you time to understand what they look like because this is the initial x-ray of the break. So this is the worst one and it's the first one. The top-down view is not as bad, but the side view, these have technical names. I'm going to use normal names, but the side view of the break is horrifying. So if you want to close your eyes, you can. I will give you a verbal cue when the x-rays are no longer on the screen, and I promise I'm not an asshole. But yeah, if you're interested but just don't want to see the x-rays, you'll be good. Okay, the x-rays are on the screen. So from this top-down view, you can see that my carpal bones are sort of shifting to the right down. I hope that makes sense. I have a fracture in the scaphoid bones. I think in particular the haploid, but I could be wrong. But it's in that area, which is on, if you're not looking, it is on the outside left of the wrist. So I have a fracture there, and then I have what's called the distal radial fracture. That's a pretty common type of fracture. It happens when you fall a lot. My other fracture is a bit more unusual, but I'll go into that. It's a common fracture, but the treatment was unusual, I should say. I will go more into that when I start talking about the surgery. From the side view, which is the worst, you can see that it really do be fucked up though. I don't think you need to know anything about bones to be like, that's something bad, that a bad thing happened there. I don't even know if I need to narrate that. It's just visually unpleasant. Okay. The x-rays are no longer on the screen. Eventually I was given morphine, just so you know. I got medication, it was okay. So then two very nice men came in. We chatted for a long time. I started to worry that they would set my bones without numbing me first. I don't know where I got this impression. I wonder if someone told me that they don't numb you to take out stitches, and I thought that they didn't numb you for putting on a cast. I'm not really sure, but they did numb me, like you'd expect. They gave me a big old injection and my arm went numb, and it was truly bliss. It was the first time I felt no pain. In fact, I feel pain right now. How? Okay, I need to stop moving my arm. Okay. So they took these two big pieces of plaster and put them on the underside and top side of my wrist and then wrapped it in ace bandages. After setting it, they pushed, I don't really know. They did a thing. They brought up a spare ace bandage thing, which my mother stole. Well, apparently she asked, but I wasn't in the room when that happened. I'm sorry. So, as far as I know, she committed the world's most low-stakes heist. Shortly after getting my cast, I went down for my second x-ray. This x-ray was largely uneventful because I wasn't in any pain, so it was very nice to just be able to do the things she asked me to do, like turn my arm or sort of flip it over in a very weird way. My cast actually extended all the way up my elbow, and it made my elbow enormous. I later asked why my elbow had to be so big, and they clarified that it was because they needed to use the leverage to help set the bones in correctly, which was interesting. However, it was very annoying because I later got a bruise on my arm from banging my goddamn elbow. It happens. I only had that cast for like 4 days, and it still really frustrates me how annoying it was. The point is that once my bones were set and I was wearing a cast, I felt so much better. Even when the numbness faded and the morphine was gone, I was okay. I did also have harder drugs to help deal with the pain for a little bit, but it was much better. Anyway, I am going to show you an image of the x-ray in a moment, the second x-ray. I will again give you warning, however it's much less disturbing. And at this point I think you have to know about bones to know that it's off. So I'm going to put the x-rays on the screen now. Feel free to close your eyes. Okay, so in these x-rays, you can see that my bones are not exactly perfectly straight. If you look at an image of how bones should be, or you'll see later, you would notice that they're just not straight. They're still listing to the side a little bit. I will talk more about exactly what my doctor told me when he was showing me these x-rays and talking to me about whether I wanted to get surgery in literally just a few seconds. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about this. It doesn't look so disturbing. Yeah. The x-ray is no longer on the screen. Eventually I got to leave the hospital. A very nice man came in and he took my vitals and mistook me for a natural redhead, which made my heart happy, but it's very clearly a lie that he told me to make me feel better. But hey, I'll take it. Eventually I was given a sling. For some reason that was like the last thing I was given. I don't know why they were really holding back on the sling, but my arm was so heavy with that cast. Because I broke my arm on a Friday, I had to call back on Monday to the orthopedic office. The issue with that was that Monday was also my birthday, which actually I didn't think was an issue at first, except when I called, they immediately gave me an appointment for the same day. I was fully not expecting that, but I got an appointment for the same day. The problem with that is that my mom had started at a new job for a bit, so she wouldn't be around to drop me off or pick me up. She managed to have time to drop me off, but could not also pick me up, which meant I was waiting for about 45 minutes for someone to come pick me up. Great way to spend your birthday. None of that is relevant. When I went into the doctor's office, we spoke for a bit. He told me that because my bones were not perfectly aligned, I could potentially lose some function in my left wrist, which would have really been a problem for me. I'm ambidextrous. I can fully write with my left hand and my right hand. Point being is that I really wanted to have my left hand back so that I could do that again, and wanted to have it at its full function. Also because I play guitar and it would be harder if my left wrist wouldn't work. That I have tried to play guitar since then. Oh my god. He also recommended surgery because of my age. I'm going to be using my wrists for a lot longer than someone who's like 80 or 90, in which case surgical intervention might be more than is necessary. Not because their life is like less valuable or they don't need their wrist, but because the pain of surgery is not necessarily worth the benefit of having like full operation of their wrist. For me, obviously, not having full operation of my wrist would be like a serious impediment because I probably have like 60 more years. I very happily opted for surgery. I guess I didn't really even stop and consider like, do I want surgery? I was just like, yeah, whatever gives me my wrist back, man. So the surgery was a bit of a kerfuffle, at least in part. To get surgery nowadays, you have to get tested for COVID. My issue was that we had scheduled my surgery for the next day. So I went into the doctor's on the 3rd and I scheduled surgery for the 4th. I had no ability to get anywhere to do a COVID test on the 4th. It was very difficult to explain to them that the only other person who drives in my house is at work all day, and by the time she's out of work, they're closed and no longer doing testing. And not only that, I could drive if I wanted to. I have a broken arm and I'm full of drugs. Eventually they scheduled me for an early morning COVID test, which was fine. I also needed to give them a urine sample. This is a bit TMI, but a urine sample pre-surgery is sort of problematic, right? I had to not pee when I got there, and then I had to ask them for a pee sample cup, and then I had to carry around my pee until my surgery in the afternoon. So that was really delightful and I had a lot of fun. I go in for surgery, I do some blood work, I give them the gift of my urine. I am called up to surgery by a very chatty woman. She was lovely. They were all lovely, basically. Just assume everyone was nice. So I'm waiting in my hospital bed for a while. I actually misunderstood the woman when she was telling me to get undressed. I left my bra on, which was later an issue because I had tubes in me somewhere. I don't remember exactly. I might have had tubes in my nose. I wore a mask the entire time, but I think I had tubes up my nose underneath the mask. I definitely had an IV in my arm, my right arm, obviously. I was taken down into the OR, which I do remember. I remember talking to the nurse. I don't remember exactly what I was saying, but it was something utterly irrelevant. Anyway, I went into the OR. I remember the man talking to me, the anesthesiologist, I assume. I think he just started counting. I think it was the countdown, and then at some point I was gone. I don't remember having weird dreams, which apparently is strange, but I have a weird brain that doesn't react to drugs in the same way, because no drug has ever given me a psychedelic effect whatsoever. So in surgery, the doctor found that the fracture of my scaphoid and my ulna, I didn't mention I did break both my radius and my ulna, so it's accurate to say that I both broke my arm and broke my wrist, which I say both. I did a really good job is what I'm saying. But the fracture of my scaphoid at my ulna was still unstable after he stabilized the distal radial fracture. So he decided to put a pin in it. In a very literal sense, there's like a pin holding together my scaphoid in the place it's supposed to be. I think scaphoid is the name for two bones, by the way. Or is that haploid? It's one of those is the name for both. I'm not a bone scientist, okay? They might later remove the pin. I'm getting the impression that he intends to eventually remove the pin, but not right now. Yes, so then my surgery took much longer, and that is why I have an incision here. This is for the distal radial fracture, and why I have an incision here. This is for the other one that doesn't have a good name. You know that one? If you only have a distal radial fracture, you'll probably just have this, or if you have a less severe scaphoid thingy. After the surgery, my arm was completely numb. They did warn me that it would be numb for maybe about 2 days, which was my experience, but we'll get into that. It's a very odd sensation having your arm be numb. Oh, I have a picture of my dumb fucking face. Because they shot at my left arm, as you would expect, my eye was half closed until it stopped being numb. It was absurd, but very funny. I looked really weird. So after the surgery, I was just kind of dealing with the pain, taking painkillers until I had my appointment, I think a week later. It was August 17th, I believe. I say that because I have an x-ray. So I went into the doctor's and I got an x-ray done and I went to see the doctor. I believe this is when they cut open the soft cast that I had. So the soft cast was essentially, I think it was plaster under here on the underside of my wrist, and then up here it was like soft, it was like cotton wrapped in ace bandages. So that was an interesting experience. When they cut off the cast, my wrist was really atrophied. Like if you just imagine my wrist but a skinny person's wrist on top of it, that's sort of what it looked like, and it was mildly horrifying. Oh, and then they took out the stitches, and I had a full-blown panic attack. It was really painful. It was pretty painful. My mom kept being like, is it worse than the break? Obviously it's not fucking worse than the break, but it still hurts so bad. I don't mean to say that's going to be your experience. I think that depends on the type of stitches, how long they've been in, how fast you heal. It's not really, it's very much like a personal experience. And I had about 30 stitches in the distal radial fracture surgical opening at least. So I had well over 30 stitches. My guess would be at about 40 overall. So it was a lot and it was really bad. They gave me a brace. This is the brace that I sleep in. I was wearing it a little bit more frequently earlier on in my recovery. Essentially it just slips on and it supports your wrist. From there, I've just been doing physical therapy, trying to see how much of my ability I can regain. I've got a couple videos, I'll play them as I talk. So yeah, you can see the progression of my ability to move my wrist, you know, bending it forwards, bending it backwards, different sort of little things I can do to try and improve and try and get full function of my wrist back. I'm making some progress now. I actually just went to see my physical therapist this very day, and she said that I could maybe start strength training soon, as in getting my strength back. For me personally, my fingers came back very quickly, but I want to note that my hypermobility probably really aided me in this. I probably have like looser tendons or something, because my fingers can go back too far, even in my broken hand they still go back really far. Yeah, so that sort of thing probably really helped in that I have my fingers, like they will do finger things. It's just the wrist that won't do things, and taking weight that I can't do, really. I can like pick up my cat who's very light, and I can hold some things, but not very much. This is the most painful one of the tricks I have to do is to hold my hands like this in a prayer position, which all of my friends think is very funny. Hey, it's a different day. I didn't really do anything for the outro. I was sick of it and my arm hurt. So I'm better now, and I'm going to do the end of the I'm gonna end and give you the, yeah, I forgot to go over the final x-rays at all, so we're gonna do that. So in just a minute I'm gonna put on the x-rays on the screen. The final x-rays are not that disturbing, but feel free to close your eyes. Okay, the x-rays are on the screen. As you can see from the top down, it just sort of looks like there's some metal there. You can see the pin and the haploid fracture on the outside of my arm. And from the other view, you can see that my bones are in a cage, which is fun. Love a bone cage, my dude. But yeah, so those are basically what's happened in the first one. But I thought that we would go through the entire progress of the x-rays so that you can really see the differences in it if you're not a bone doctor. That's what you're called, right? Bone doctor? Bone daddy? I don't know what you prefer. But regardless, I'll start running through them on the side here. So you can see the bones sort of starting to be shifted into space by outside forces. That sounds kind of horrifying. Is that horrifying? I don't know. Let me know. Or don't. I'm not your mom. The x-rays are no longer on the screen. Sorry, I forgot to record that clip. Anyway, so I've just been recovering. I'm doing some more recovery. I've been doing some more fucking myself up. I ripped off some of my skin with some of this kinesthesiology tape. This one specifically, but I don't think it's the tape's fault. It was me. All that aside, I'm going to start taking this a little bit more seriously and doing it like normal people do it. I don't want to lose the spirit of what I was doing in YouTube, which was basically whatever the fuck I wanted. But I also want to solve the problems I was having, which was that I was just trying to put out consistently, and I was sometimes just filming stuff I wanted to do anyway, you know? So I might be posting every other week or something. It'll probably be like long form talking videos. Yeah, I want to talk about things I like actually, instead of doing commentary about stuff I don't like. That's my intention anyway.